Black Bart here, folks, to talk about whack and black heart dart. The host of the show asked me to smile. There was a famous song by a gentleman that says, "Makes me want to holler the way they do my life." And here's how they do my life. This mask that I brought with me today was purposely chosen out of a collection of about 200 masks because I can't breathe. And I can't breathe because the current system of Cook County government as it applies to the sheriff's office has functioned as Derek Chauvin's knee. And it has regarded my job as George Floyd's neck. To my right is a gentleman, Sergeant Brad Sandifer, who is the slated Libertarian candidate for sheriff in the upcoming November 8th election. And I have the honor of serving as his campaign manager. And the comments that I will soon make relative to Dart are totally unrelated to any horse in the race I have as regards his possible election, as I have not voted for Dart in any election since he first ran in 2006. So my political opposition to his candidacy is in no ways new and is in no way precipitated by his race-based termination of my employment, the details of which I will supply shortly. I have with me a photo array that will best demonstrate that which I intend to talk about today. The figure on my right was uncontroversially deemed to be a hate crime targeting African Americans after it was discovered in the room of a history teacher who was a longtime member of the faculty at Whitney Young High School. It was deemed to be the hate crime that it is. The figure on the left is a black mannequin with a makeshift noose around its neck, a bullet hole in the center of its chest, something that simulates a bullet hole rather, roughly the circumference of a .45 caliber round, with its right hand postured as if bound. This was discovered by me during a routine patrol while I was employed with the Sheriff's Department on May 12th of 2016. The media has functioned as Tom Dart's offensive line for 6 years. If you notice, I said I discovered this originally on May 12, 2016. You might be asking yourself the very relevant question of why is this coming to public light at this time? Does it represent something as far as my dilatory nature is concerned, suspected dilatory nature is concerned? It does not. This television station, to which I am eternally grateful, has provided me with the first opportunity to air this grievance in 6 years, but it has not been without considerable effort on my part to achieve this same result. As I have contacted Channel 2, 5, 7, 9, 11, 32, CNN, Fox News, and you name the outlet. But there was an incentive that didn't exist here. Who wants to protect a history teacher from Whitney Young High School? The suppression of the news was in regards to this instance, which is a much more eloquent hate crime statement as compared to the crude, rudimentary nature of that which is represented here. There was an effort to protect a politically connected sheriff named Tom Dart, who was categorically unfit for office, because this hate crime was not properly investigated. There were recoverable prints that would have been present within the base of this cone that someone had to reach into to deliberately insert into this notch to secure this black mannequin with a makeshift noose around his neck. Those prints were recoverable and would have been readily traceable to one of the 28 people rostered at this work site at 103rd and Woodlawn, all of whom had been subject to pre-employment background checks, which means the department maintained their prints on file. 101 investigations 101. Readily trace the prints to an identified source, properly prosecute and terminate the individual responsible. That did not occur. What did occur? My termination, the whistleblower, and not the termination of the white perpetrator of this reprehensible hate crime. What did the department do? There was a nearby white mannequin. The department, rather than performing its investigatory responsibility, remember the sheriff takes an oath of office to uphold the law. The law required the proper investigation of a hate crime targeting African Americans. It didn't occur. The assigned supervisors who came to the scene to investigate my complaint of the hate crime substituted the crime scene and made a report, which I will show you shortly, in reference to a white mannequin, in order to avoid the inconvenient truths associated with the proper reporting of the black mannequin. The mannequin, the hate criminal, had three available options in which to place his reprehensible hate crime. The option on the far left is a totally obliterated reference to the Cook County Sheriff's Department. The option in the middle is a weathered and time-compromised reference to anybody's sheriff department, as most sheriff's departments have six-pointed stars, and there's no clear reference to the Cook County Sheriff's Department. The hate criminal, being discerning in his act, selected the option which is a clear representation of the Cook County Sheriff's Department. Dr. E. Stanley Jones said, never choose the good in the presence of the better, never choose the better in the presence of the best. The demonstrably false police report, which says in relevant part, Sergeant, I won't mention his name, star number 3072, took a look around the pound and observed a test dummy wearing a mechanic jumpsuit laying on the ground by the old guard shack, obviously making reference to this mannequin as opposed to this mannequin. Demonstrably false police report. But it does something. It's demonstrably false, but it establishes an investigatory timeline that completes the official investigation that the Cook County Sheriff Department conducted in regards to this incident. It was a sham investigation in regards to a substituted crime scene representing obstruction of justice and evidence tampering, but it establishes an investigatory time frame as to the completion of the investigation. The investigation was completed non-controversially on May 12, 2016. Why then? Why in God's name would the mannequin still be present on scene in regards to an elapsed time period of 9 days? Originally noted by me on 5/12/2016, originally completed in its investigation, the only official investigation the department conducted on the same date, 5/12/2016. 5/21/2016 is still there. Why would you display a hate crime, a reprehensible hate crime that targeted my ethnicity 9 days after the fact, absent an investigatory motivation? There's no yellow crime scene tape around this, nor would there need to be, because it wouldn't. Yellow crime scene would indicate that they would await the arrival of the forensic expert, which would extract available prints and trace them to the perpetrator source. That didn't occur, and there's no crime scene tape here. If you have your Christmas tree up from December 16th to December 25th, you're uncontroversially celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You're celebrating Merry Christmas. If you keep a hate crime targeting my ethnicity up for 9 days, absent an investigatory motivation, absent yellow crime scene tape circumferring the scene, you are celebrating uncontroversially white supremacy. And I call for the immediate resignation of Cook County Sheriff Tom Dutt. You may recall, it's been in the news, a particular councilwoman who happened to be the president of the Los Angeles city council, I believe her name was Nuri Martinez, made uncomplimentary references to my race during a hot mic scenario in which she was not aware that she was being taped. Immediately the call came for her resignation. And to her credit, and people make mistakes, that's why they manufacture whiteout and put erasers on the end of pencils. To her credit, she responsibly resigned her presidency of the Los Angeles City Council. I demand that Tom Dart resign immediately to have as much masculinity as she had femininity, because you have erred to an unforgivable degree. You cannot disrespect the black base of the Democratic Party by ignoring a hate crime and perpetrating your own individual hate crime for every intervening day from 5/12/2016 to 5/21/2016 and remain in office. Do what Nuri Martinez did. Not only that, JB, and I'll give my partner a chance to say something here, JB recently called for the resignation of Emil Jones III, as well as other elected official Scott Hastings. Scott Hastings in reference to his reported domestic disturbance, and Emil Jones III in reference to his supposed comfy financial relationship with the people who have the red light camera contractors. JB responsibly called for their immediate resignation. I call upon the governor of this state, who has the nerve, gumption, and audacity and gall to ask for our vote, and mind you, he ignored this hate crime as well. I want you to get that. I reported this to J.B. Pritzker on March 29th of this year. And he said, well, you know what, I'll get back to you in 30 days. Excuse me, I'm checking my watch. It has calendar capacity. I'm still waiting for that 30 days. That is the longest 30 days that I have experienced in near 65 years of living. So he ignored it as well, because I brought it to his attention. I said, you are the leader of the Democratic Party in Cook County. Responsibly take control of this situation and keep your dogs on a leash. He ignored a hate crime, repudiated Pritzker, and insisted he resign, as you insisted that Scott Hastings and Emil Jones III do. I'll say this, and I'll give this to my co-host. This is media call-out time. This is a guy whose name is Daniel Kramer. Daniel Kramer says that this isn't a hate crime, the image on your left. If you say a swastika is not a sign of anti-Semitism, then you are an anti-Semite. If you say this is not a hate crime, which is the black racial equivalent of a swastika, then you are a racist with a capital R. He said, it's not a hate crime. I don't see a hate crime. Then he blames me in the email. He says, furthermore, the report says there's no evidence of a hate crime. Yeah, it did say that. It was a false police report, as I mentioned. What do you expect a false police report to say? Rapists don't self-report. You know, if you want to find out whether a rape occurred, you need to ask the rape victim, and you need to examine the forensic evidence corroborating the claim of the rape victim. Doesn't. And then I asked him in a reply email, I said, sir, can you explain to me if the image on the left is not a hate crime, how do you acknowledge that the image on the right is? And I further challenged him, if it's not a hate crime, I tell you what you do. You reproduce the pictures, and in an upcoming Juneteenth celebration, display those pictures around your office. But before you do it, make sure you've circulated your resume on the internet, because you will be appropriately terminated for being a hate criminal. Sarge, I want to say one more thing about Tom Dart's pattern of racism. Besides the fact that he perpetrated a hate crime over an identified 9-day period within May of 2016, he differentially provides government services based on race. let me corroborate, let me substantiate that claim. We unfortunately had a sniper incident at the Highland Park July 4th parade. After that, there was an August 14th Bud Billiken parade. The Cook County Sheriff Department did not provide aerial surveillance of the parade route to ensure that a sniper roost hadn't been set up to target the parade goers. Check that box. After that, the Mexican Independence Day parade, the Cook County Sheriff Department did not provide aerial surveillance to ensure that there was not a sniper roost to protect the Mexican Independence Day parade goers as they traversed along that route. But contrastingly, when there was a parade in Schaumburg that primarily involved white parade goers, the Cook County Sheriff's Department provided aerial surveillance so that those parade goers would be properly protected against a person positioning themselves along within a sniper roost, targeting the parade goers. A person who differentially provides taxpayer-supported services based on race is not fit for duty for reasons other than I've described here. This gentleman is, and he's better capable of commenting about his campaign than I am, so he'll have the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Sandifer. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 32 years. I have over 40 years of experience in law enforcement. I've trained with the FBI, the Secret Service, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I'm a former United States Marine. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, and I am a doctoral candidate at Liberty University. I'm also a certified academy instructor, correctional officer, police officer, and tactical officer. Things like what the Reverend here is bringing out is one of the reasons I'm running. Another reason I'm running is because we constantly have politics still in the Sheriff's Department, even though some court cleared them of such things. How is it not politics when you hire a radio host to be in charge of a specialty unit for anti-carjacking, which has arrested very few people so far? Now, how did this radio host get the job? He got the job because he, throughout Tom Dart's career, supported Tom Dart. Now, there are allegations against Tom Dart the public isn't aware of, and there are facts about Tom Dart that the public does become aware of. Rocon hiring over all of his already sworn, well-experienced deputies and patrol officers is a verifiable fact. There are allegations that he's been involved in domestic disputes. I've seen some evidence of that, but not enough. But it's enough to question whether it's real or not. I'm told that his wife moved to Michigan to secretly divorce him so it would not hurt his political career. Now, if that's true, then you know there's still politics going on in the Sheriff's Department. I know I made the lieutenant's list numerous times. I made the Sheriff's Police list numerous times. I was with the Sheriff for 25 years before I was finally sent to the Sheriff's Police after repeatedly passing the test because I didn't know anyone. I was not politically connected. I am not politically connected, and I am not a politician, and I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm trying to be a law enforcement officer, and I'm trying to get the politics, the racism, the inequities, and the favoritism out of the Sheriff's Department, and I'm trying to stop putting the criminals back on the street. This department has steadily reduced the jail population on the surface. In reality, we had 11,000, went down to roughly 9,000. 3,500 of those people are now on electronic monitoring. Since we started reducing the jail population, originally it was reduced about 40%. Crime immediately went up 40%. Now, crime overall has gone back down a little bit to 34%, but violent crime has gone up 40%. According to former Cook County Sheriff's candidate Carmen Navarro-Jercon, there are 65,000 unserved warrants because they cut out the warrant department. They hired over 400 directors when the jail used to have only 3 directors. Now, they've been laying off ground-level deputies while hiring more and more directors. Now, how do you run a law enforcement agency without your foot soldiers? Why do you need over 400 directors? 400 directors is roughly 1 director for every 15 employees. That's on top of a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a superintendent. How many supervisors do you need? You don't need a lot. So we have that. There was a truck hiring scandal many years ago. Before Mr. Dart became the sheriff, there was a newspaper article in the Sun-Times that clearly defined him as the man to go to if you wanted to illegally hire someone. This was the Robert Sorich trial. And Robert Sorich and Tom Somerville both stated that Tom Dart was the go-to guy for hiring. And this is your sheriff nowadays, the darling of the media. Now, you can't run a sheriff's department like that. Mr. Moore here always says to me, would you want to take a lawyer to a gunfight? I know I wouldn't, and you wouldn't want to take me, the cop, to defend you in court. I always say, stay in your lane until you've earned a turn signal. We have a thing called the Safety Act, SAFE-T, that was recently passed by the Illinois legislature. The last hour of the night, the Democrats weren't allowed to read it. They were just told vote for it, and they blindly voted for it. Now, one of the things in this act is that you have to be a certified police officer to be the sheriff. I disagree with that, because if you spend 25, 30 years in the jail, moving your way up, learning administrative stuff, you are more than qualified to be at the head of the sheriff's department.
Yes, sir.
Tom Dart was not a police officer. Tom Dart was a lifelong politician and lawyer. And he got in, never went and bothered to go through the Sheriff's Police Academy or any police academy till this law was passed and made this requirement. Then he went through a half-baked, pretend police academy. Didn't go through what I went through when I went through the police academy. Didn't go through what any of the people. 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes longer than that. Hours and hours of physical work, lots of studying, all kinds of stuff. There's no way that Tom Dart did that. So I do not respect his law enforcement certification.
Me either.
I don't consider it real. But why did he wait until this came, even though he was grandfathered in? Because this law did not apply if you already held the office of sheriff. So my point is, we need to put a real law enforcement officer in charge of a law enforcement agency. We need to stop catering to the criminals and start catering to the law-abiding American citizens of Cook County and those who visit our county for whatever reason and in whatever way. Because we have seen the victim count go up. We had 26 people shot this last weekend. I can't remember whether it was 6 or 9 of them died, but this is happening every weekend. So how do we solve it? Well, the Republican candidate, Guadalupe Aguirre, says hire more police. Well, what else? That's it. Hire more police is his only solution. Tom Dart's solution is to keep letting them out of jail. My solution is to create diversion programs. Now, there are a couple of them. They just had one on the news today where some people graduated, young people graduated from a diversion program. But my point is the diversion program should apply to anyone. I don't care if you're 50 years old. If you committed a nonviolent crime and this diversion program will get you on the straight and narrow, then that's where we need to put you. If you go through it, you follow all the rules, you stay straight for, 24 months, then your criminal history is erased, as far as employers are concerned, because the biggest problem with crime is that big X on the back of someone's back, which disqualifies them for a lot of employment and other employment for which they're eligible. People simply won't hire them. You leave them no choice but to return to drug dealing, robbing, etc. So if we have the diversion program, that will reduce that. We quit putting mentally ill people who can't control their decisions behind bars. We put them in a mental health facility. State of Illinois cut mental health financing until this year, election year, when now all of a sudden we have $40 million for mental health services. Now, that's fine and dandy, but because they closed all these mental health services before, Cook County Jail is now the largest mental health facility in the United States, and they are not designed to treat mental illness. They are designed to control it until you get to Stateville or are found not guilty. We need to actually treat these people. If they can't afford medication, let's get them medication. If they have the misfortune of being born with a lower intellectual level, because the law says if you have an intellectual level of 70 or below, you can't be given certain sentences. We can take those people and we can work with them and we can increase their intellectual level. We can make their brain work better so that they are not gullible, not manipulable by gangs or motorcycle gangs or whoever else is out there trying to foment criminal activity on the manipulable, on the easy victims. We have to stop that. So the other thing we can do, this is today, this channel is concerning itself with safety of children. Why don't we restart after-school programs, and not just recreation and not just during the week? On the weekends, they got nothing to do all day. We can have the recreation facilities. We can have tutors there if they're having trouble with math or history or whatever the class may be. We can have counselors there if they've got something going on at home that is not good for them, that they are afraid to tell anyone in their family or friends close to their family. If we tell the counselor, then the counselor can take action, because you know from reading the newspaper reports, and may have experienced it yourself, if your parent, your uncle, your neighbor is doing something bad to you, beating you, or other things I don't want to mention right now, you might be afraid to tell them because you don't know that they're going to go back to your parents or to whoever's doing it to you and be on their side. So you need an outside source to go to. These kids commit crimes often because of the environment and the culture that says, kill the police, beat the women, listen to the music lyrics. And it's not just a particular group. This is all groups. I don't want anyone to think that I'm looking at any particular group, because this stuff goes across groups. Asians, Caucasians, blacks, Hispanics, we all have this problem, and it needs to stop. So these are some of my plans, but the biggest plan is to get the politics out. That means revamping the Sheriff's Merit Board. The sheriff cannot hire anyone. The sheriff cannot fire anyone. The Merit Board does that, and the Merit Board is politically appointed by the Sheriff's Department, and that keeps politics alive. Now, you can read my whole program at my website, bradforsheriff.org. Or I'm sorry, it's not the whole program, but I have a 16-page position paper there that you can go to, and it's time for the citizens to take control of their law enforcement and protect themselves against these criminals. And I have plans beyond just hiring more police. Thank you for listening to me.
One
Michael?
final word. On June 8th, 2016, the record is reviewable by appropriate resort to the archived files. I gave a speech in front of the county board advising Tony Preckwinkle, President Tony Preckwinkle, of what I have just spoken about, as well as the 17 commissioners at the time. When she received the packet and she saw the lynched version of the black mannequin, the shock value was such that she almost dropped the packet. And at the conclusion of the 4-minute speech that I made, she said, "Thank you. Thank you very much," acknowledging receipt of my materials. She said, "We received your materials." And that was on June 8th, 2016. Here we are, 6.5 years later. She did absolutely nothing and is not worthy of your vote, as is Tom Dart. He ignored a hate crime, and she ignored his ignoring a hate crime. Thank you for your attention. Resort to the website for further information.